What is going on, beautiful people? Hope you're having a beautiful day, because I am having a beautiful day. So in today's video, what I wanted to do is take you guys through my top 5 rear delt exercises, okay? Now, even though I've said this in other videos, right, there isn't really more than 5 exercises that you could do for rear delts, right? So top 5 is gonna be plenty to help grow the rear delts, right? It's a pretty small muscle. There's not a ginormous movement within that muscle, okay? So what I wanted to do before we get into the top 5 is go over a few mistakes that I see people make when trying to train the rear delts. So mistake number 1 is over contracting, okay? Now, I don't mean over contracting a rear delt, because that's not actually possible, right? Once you've contracted the rear delt fully, you can't contract it anymore. What I mean is overuse of the range of motion, okay? So the rear delt, once you fly, let's say a rear delt fly, once you fly and the rear delt contracts, that's all you should be doing. Any more is going to mean you're incorporating different muscles, i.e. the rhomboids, the traps, and all those other back muscles that are back there, right? So the idea is you don't want to use such a huge range of motion if you're trying to just build the rear delt. Mistake number 2 is rowing instead of flying, or doing something completely different to actually a rear delt fly, okay? Nonetheless, they will not be doing a fly. So instead of rowing, which is going to focus a lot on the entire back, what you want to do is a fly, and that's going to help target the rear delt as opposed to your other back muscles. All right, guys, now that we've covered a few mistakes that I see people make within the gym, what I wanted to do is give you some reasons why you would actually want a big rear delt, okay? So it's not a very common muscle to want. People don't start going to the gym to grow a big set of rear delts. However, they are quite important for overall aesthetics as well as posture, okay? So first reason why you'd want a bigger rear delt is to add a ton of shape to your physique from the side and from the back, but most importantly the side, okay? So from the side, the rear delt's right here, okay? So it's an incredibly important part of the shoulder, as well as to actually make your waist appear slimmer from this side, and it's going to give you an absolute ton of shape from the side. Now, the second thing is posture, okay? So the rear delt is going to help draw your shoulder back. So if you have slumped over shoulders, quite like this, the rear delt is gonna help open that up, okay? So the idea with slumped shoulders is there is a very tight amount of muscles here, all right? Your front delt, your pec, they're all tight, and it's all bringing you forward. And as such, there is a weak muscle back here, i.e. the rear delt. So what you wanna do is then train the rear delt, which is going to help pull your shoulders back, and then from there, it will be more balanced, okay? So they'll be equaled out. It won't be so tight here, and it won't be so weak back here. All right, now that we have discussed the mistakes that I most commonly see within the gym, as well as why exactly you'd want a big rear delt, what I wanted to do is take you guys through the top 5. So the first exercise of which is a reverse PEC Deck Fly. Now, the reason that I'm picking this is because purely it takes away any momentum that you might be getting from using dumbbells or a barbell or even cables for that matter. Now, this is also very good for putting yourself in a position to focus purely on the rear delt. Now, you won't be able to isolate it 100%, but you're going to be able to make it the primary mover, which makes it fail first. So typically what you're gonna wanna do is set on the bench. Now, where a lot of people screw up is they just sit straight up, straight, and then like this, and they go like this, okay? A good thing to think about is setting far back on the chair and then leaning forward, and then drawing your elbows out while keeping them parallel with the floor, contracting in the rear delt, contracting in the rear delt, contracting in the rear delt. Once you feel your rear delt instantly contract, then you go back to the movement, let it stretch it out, let you pull your shoulder forward, and then repeat. Exercise number 2 is a standing reverse cable fly. Now, typically I'm gonna do this from quite a high setting on the cables. Now, the reason why the cables is at number 2 is because of the constant tension that cables allows, okay? So it's gonna place an absolute ton of strain on the rear delt in terms of the stretch, and then also the contraction is very fluid. It's very, very fluid to get a very nice contraction from here. So what I'll typically do is I'll set the cables up at the highest point that I can. Then what you wanna think about is grabbing them. So your arm should be coming up and it should be pulling this out. And then with a slight bend in your elbows, chest height, you wanna fly down, okay? So just bring your elbows directly down and out, keeping the same amount of bend within your elbow the whole entire time. If you start to bend at the elbow, that's going to be using bicep, as well as it's going to make the back take over as opposed to the rear delts. An important cue to think about there is to keep the chest high. Exercise number 3 is the face pull. Now, the face pull can be done in many different ways. However, the way that I prefer to do it in terms of rear delt activation is to grab the cable at about eye height level, okay? So once you grab the cable, you wanna hold it at the ropes. And then when you pull to your nose, you wanna open it up. Open it up, almost like it is a rear delt fly, but because it's getting that big stretch by pulling you in and pulling your shoulders forward, it's going to put a lot of the strain on the rear delt. Now, a lot of people do the face pull like this and they open up, which is a good one, but what I found to be better is to hold the handles and then open them up and pinch back, contracting at the rear delt. This is another great one for overall shoulder health, but considering the primary focus right now is to build the rear delt with these exercises, what you want to do is generally use the first method. Number 4 is the seated dumbbell row. This might sound a bit contradictory to what I said before as opposed to doing a fly instead of a row, but this isn't so much of a row that we're trying to focus a lot on the lat or the trap or any other back muscle for that matter, but instead it's a very short movement. So you want to sit on a bench, let your arms hang down, and then while they're there, you just want to row very shortly to contract the rear delt. So basically from here, normal dumbbell row would come up and you'd finish with the shoulder, but instead you want to finish with the elbow, right? Boom, boom. Last but not least, exercise number 5 is a bench supported rear delt dumbbell fly. Now, the idea is you want to set up the bench on an incline, right? Not a very high incline, okay? The higher the incline, the more you're going to be using your lateral head of your shoulder as opposed to the rear. So the idea is you want to be as parallel to the floor as humanly possible, and then with limber hands, okay? So the idea is you want to use your elbow for everything. A very important cue when rowing or when flying, doing a reverse fly, is to use your elbow, okay? And keep your arms just dead. So these should just be dead, hanging, elbows out, elbows out, elbows out, boom. Instant contraction on the rear delt. Now this one, again, it's kind of mimicking the rear PEC Deck Fly. So if you don't have one of those, I recommend doing this, okay? Because the bench is going to help take out any momentum that you might be using to get the weight up and putting more emphasis on the rear delt as opposed to anything else, okay? A few cues, right, that I've said across the video being using your elbow, okay, to fly back, and as well as keeping your chest high. Keep your chest high. That's going to help draw the shoulders down and going to help you get a better contraction within the rear delt, right? As well as, right, if you have your chest slumped over and down, the biggest thing that you're going to be doing is raising your shoulders up, and that's going to incorporate a lot more shrug, which is going to put a lot of the load into the traps as opposed to the rear delts. So you want to keep your shoulder blades down, shoulders down with your chest high, high chest. Boom, fly. So a few more tips is, right, if you do have lagging rear delts as opposed to other parts of your shoulder, then I would recommend on your shoulder days or on your push days or whatever, throw in the rear delt exercise first. So a lot of people are just under the misconception that on shoulder day, you have to start with a pressing movement. You have to start with a dumbbell press or an overhead press with a barbell. That's completely inaccurate, okay? If you're training for aesthetics, your ideal should be to create a balanced physique. And as such, you're going to have to train in a way that's going to accentuate your current imbalances or strengths. Okay, so if your weakness is the rear delt, then you need to start with the rear delt on shoulder days, okay? Same goes if your weakness is the front delt or the side delt. You need to start with those on your shoulder days or whatever day you train shoulders, considering, right, you're much stronger and have a lot more energy at the start of the workout. You want to put your weakest parts there so you can improve on them, utilize more energy for that exercise and get the most benefit, okay? And then from there towards the end of the workout, you can go to the parts where you're stronger, creating a more balanced physique. Okay, guys, that wraps up my top 5 rear delt exercises. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like, and if you want to see me make more of these, be sure to comment below and I'll be sure to do that, okay? So with that, I'm just gonna wrap the video up here. I hope you enjoyed watching because I enjoyed making it. I'll catch you in the next one later.